morning of May 24, 2019 in New Canaan, Connecticut began like any other in the affluent, tightly knit community. The sun filtered through the dense canopy of trees lining the quiet streets of one of America's wealthiest towns. At a house on Wells Lane, Jennifer Dulos, a 50-year-old mother of 5, was preparing for the day. Her focus, as always, was on her children. She helped them get ready, made breakfast, and loaded them into her 2017 black Chevrolet Suburban for the short drive to the New Canaan Country School. The school was merely around the corner, a quick trip down Frogtown Road. At approximately 8:05 a.m., she was seen completing the drop-off. After the children headed into school, Jennifer turned her Suburban towards home. She had a mid-morning appointment scheduled with her dentist in New York City, a plan noted by friends and family. The distance between New Canaan and the city meant she needed to depart soon, yet the rhythms of that ordinary Friday were about to fracture irreparably. The tranquility of the neighborhood, the predictability of the schedule, the very notion of safety in this enclave, all of it was poised to vanish alongside Jennifer. The timestamp of 8:05 a.m. became an immutable fixed point, the last moment Jennifer Dulos was accounted for by anyone outside of the person or persons responsible for her disappearance. Her home on Wells Lane awaited her return, but the garage, soon to be the center of a grim discovery, held a different fate. The clock continued to tick, moving past the time she should have left for the city, past the time her absence might first cause a flicker of concern, and into the long afternoon where worry would curdle into dread. As the afternoon wore on, the absence of Jennifer Dulos became a tangible, alarming reality. The children finished their school day, expecting their mother's familiar face among the cars lined up for pickup, but she was not there. Friends and family members, alerted to the situation, began calling her cell phone. Each call went directly to voicemail, a digital silence that amplified the growing fear. They drove to her rented home at 69 Wells Lane, finding the property quiet and still. Her car was not in the driveway. There was no answer at the door. By 7 p.m., with no contact made and no plausible explanation, the decision was made to officially report Jennifer missing to the New Canaan Police Department. Officers responded to the Wells Lane address. Their initial walkthrough of the home revealed nothing overtly disturbed in the main living areas. It was when they entered the garage that the nature of the incident transformed from a missing person case to something far more sinister. Under the glare of police flashlights, the concrete floor told a story the empty house did not. Investigators observed stains. Not large pools, but a pattern of spatter, small, dried droplets, and, more tellingly, smeared impressions with distinct overlapping arcs. The marks were consistent with someone attempting to clean a scene in haste, the swirling patterns of a mop or rag failing to erase the evidence of a violent event. Yellow evidence markers were placed beside these stains, turning the garage into a grid of unanswered questions. The investigation into Jennifer's disappearance immediately and intensely focused on the person with the most direct motive, her estranged husband Fotis Dulos. The couple's divorce, filed in 2017, had devolved into one of the most acrimonious and high-stakes custody battles in Connecticut memory. Jennifer's own sworn statements to the court painted a portrait of a man she deeply feared. She had detailed his irrational, unsafe, bullying, threatening, and controlling behavior, alleging he had purchased a gun and explicitly threatened to kidnap their 5 children if she did not acquiesce to his terms in the settlement. She wrote she was afraid for her physical safety and for the emotional well-being of their children, believing him to be dangerous and ruthless when he felt wronged. Fotis, for his part, denied all allegations, framing Jennifer as manipulative and accusing her of alienating the children from him. By May 2019, he was living with his new girlfriend, Michelle Troconis, in the Farmington mansion he once shared with his family, while Jennifer lived 70 miles away in New Canaan. The bitterness was profound, the financial stakes were crippling, and the custody arrangement was a fragile, court-ordered tension. For detectives, this provided a powerful lens through which to view the crime. While police would methodically pursue every lead, the estranged husband, by the very nature of the brutal, intimate crime and the tumultuous history, stood at the center of the investigative universe from those first hours. Every piece of evidence would be weighed against his potential involvement, setting the stage for a complex process of proving not just what happened, but who did it, in a case where the victim was missing and the primary suspect was a wealthy, connected man who would vehemently proclaim his innocence. While Fotis Dulos presented an alibi, claiming he was at his home in Farmington all morning, detectives turned to digital and physical evidence to trace the true movements of key vehicles. Their attention locked onto a specific vehicle, a red Toyota Tacoma pickup truck owned by an employee of Fotis's company, 4 Group. Through a meticulous review of public and private surveillance footage, investigators pieced together a timeline. The Tacoma was captured on camera leaving a company-owned property at 80 Mountain Spring Road in Farmington at 5:35 a.m. on May 24th. The truck then traveled south, its journey recorded by various traffic cameras along the 75-mile route to New Canaan. Crucially, at 7:57 a.m., a camera on a passing school bus recorded the Tacoma parked on Lapham Road, a quiet, wooded lane adjacent to Waveney Park. This location was significant for 2 reasons. It was less than 4 miles from Jennifer's home, and it was remarkably close to where her SUV would later be found. Enhancing the grainy footage, analysts noted a shape in the truck's bed, a bicycle. This observation formed the backbone of the prosecution's theory. They postulated that the driver parked the conspicuous truck in this secluded spot, used the bicycle to travel the remaining distance to 69 Wells Lane silently, and lay in wait. The Tacoma, sitting on Lapham Road, became a silent witness to the early stages of the crime, its presence there placing a vehicle tied to Fotis Dulos' world in extremely close proximity to Jennifer Dulos at the precise time she vanished. The theory of the bicycle allowed investigators to construct a narrative of the crime's execution. They believed that after parking the Tacoma on Lapham Road, the individual rode to Jennifer's home and waited. Upon her return from dropping off the children, she would have pulled her Suburban into the garage at approximately 8:15 to 8:20 a.m. It was there, in that confined, private space, that the violent assault occurred, as evidenced by the blood spatter later found by police. After the attack, the assailant faced the monumental task of cleaning up and disposing of the evidence. Forensic analysis inside the home revealed a critical clue. A mixture of DNA from both Jennifer and Fotis Dulos was recovered from a faucet in the kitchen, suggesting the person had washed up there. The next step, according to the state's theory, involved moving Jennifer's body. They believe she was placed in the rear of her own Chevy Suburban. The assailant then drove her vehicle the short distance to Waveney Park, parking it conspicuously against a tree where it was later discovered. The Tacoma, meanwhile, had been left on Lapham Road, a mere 100 feet from where the Suburban was parked. For approximately 40 minutes following the Suburban's arrival in the park, there is a gap in surveillance footage tracking the Tacoma. Investigators believe this period was used to transfer Jennifer's body back into the bed of the pickup truck, a grim and logistically challenging task that would account for the missing time. The Tacoma, now carrying its terrible cargo, then began its journey back north to Farmington. The focus of the investigation then shifted to the evening of May 24th and to an area far from the serene streets of New Canaan, Albany Avenue in Hartford. Fotis Dulos' cell phone data placed him in this location around 7 p.m. Police scoured the area for surveillance footage and found crucial video evidence from city cameras. The footage showed the red Toyota Tacoma stopping at a series of public trash bins along Albany Avenue. A man whose physique and clothing matched Fotis Dulos was seen repeatedly exiting the truck and depositing heavy black plastic garbage bags into the bins. In the passenger seat was Michelle Troconis, Fotis' girlfriend. This visual evidence was a major breakthrough. Acting on it, detectives immediately retrieved the bags from the trash receptacles. Inside, they found an assortment of items, including clothing, a shirt, shorts, and bra sized for a small woman, sponges, cleaning supplies, and zip ties. Most critically, these items were stained with blood. Forensic testing confirmed that the blood belonged to Jennifer Dulos. This discovery transformed the case. It provided tangible, physical evidence that Jennifer had been gravely injured, and it directly implicated Fotis and Michelle in a coordinated effort to dispose of evidence linked to her assault. On June 1, 2019, based on this evidence, Fotis Dulos and Michelle Troconis were arrested and charged with tampering with physical evidence and hindering prosecution. As the evidence mounted, a seemingly minor detail from the red Tacoma yielded another direct forensic link to Jennifer. During their investigation, police learned that Fotis Doulos had instructed the employee who owned the truck to replace its old, worn front seats. The employee did so, but perhaps frugally stored the original seats in a barn instead of discarding them. When investigators became aware of this, they secured the seats and submitted them for forensic analysis. The results were conclusive. Testing revealed the presence of Jennifer Doulos's blood on the fabric of the passenger seat. This finding was devastating to the defense. It placed Jennifer's biological evidence inside the very vehicle that surveillance footage showed traveling from Farmington to New Canaan that morning. This physical evidence, combined with the video footage and the items recovered from Albany Avenue, formed a formidable chain of circumstantial proof. In January 2020, based on the totality of this evidence, Fotis Doulos was arrested and formally charged with the murder of Jennifer Doulos. Michelle Troconis and Fotis's friend, Kent Mawhinney, were charged with conspiracy to commit murder. All three pleaded not guilty. Fotis's defense team pointed to the lack of a body, suggesting alternative scenarios, but the state's case was now built on a foundation of forensics, digital timelines, and witnessed actions. The legal process was abruptly altered by Fotis Doulos's final act. Out on a staggering $6 million bond and under house arrest at his Farmington mansion, he was awaiting trial. On January 28, 2020, he failed to appear for a critical court hearing where a judge was to decide if his bond should be revoked for missing prior payments. His attorney stated he was en route, but concern grew. Police performed a welfare check at his home. In the garage, they found Fotis unresponsive in a running vehicle. He was rushed to the hospital in critical condition from carbon monoxide poisoning. A typewritten suicide note was recovered. In it, he wrote, "I refuse to spend even an hour more in jail for something I have nothing to do with," and claimed that neither Michelle Troconis nor Kent Mawhinney were involved. After 2 days in the hospital, he was removed from life support and pronounced dead on January 30, 2020. His death left a complex legacy. Many viewed it as a clear admission of guilt from a man facing overwhelming evidence. Legally, it extinguished the murder case against him, but left the conspiracy case very much alive. The legal aftermath of Jennifer Doulos's disappearance now rests entirely on the case against Michelle Troconis. With Fotis Doulos dead, she's the sole remaining defendant charged with conspiracy to commit murder, along with the original charges of tampering with evidence and hindering prosecution. Her defense team has consistently argued that she was manipulated by Fotis Doulos, a charismatic man who she claims lied to her about the status of his divorce and the nature of his actions. They contend that on the evening of May 24th, she was merely a passenger on what she believed was a routine errand to discard household trash, distracted by her phone and unaware of the horrific contents of the black bags. The prosecution's case hinges on demonstrating her knowledge and intent. They point to her changing statements to police, particularly her eventual admission that Fotis was not with her all morning, as she initially claimed. He had left his cell phone at home, and the sheer volume and nature of the activity on Albany Avenue as being impossible to overlook. The state will also rely on the testimony of Kent Mawhinney, the co-defendant who accepted a plea deal to outline the conspiracy. Meanwhile, the search for Jennifer Doulos's body has never ceased. Investigators remain hopeful that forensic advances or a tip will one day lead to her recovery, providing a measure of closure for her family and final, undeniable proof in the case. Jennifer's 5 children are being raised by their grandmother, Gloria Farber, in New York City, shielded from the ongoing legal battles, but living permanently with the loss of their mother. The legacy of the case is one of a family shattered by acrimony, a disappearance that pierced the veil of wealth and privilege, and a haunting, unanswered question that lingers over a peaceful Connecticut town. Where is Jennifer Doulos? What do you think happened to the beloved mother of 5? Let me know your opinions in the comments. I thank you all for your continued support. Do well to like the video if it touched you, subscribe to the channel so you do not miss intense crime stories like this one, and as always, I will be seeing you on our next episode.